Welcome to episode 85 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is about to start teaching the Greek alphabet.
That's right.
John Scott Sloat.
I've already sent out the song for them to listen to.
Yeah.
So they're gleefully memorizing it.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. So we're like a week away, basically, as we record this. Just over.
A week and a day. So I think classes start the 25th. So
right. And your Greek class, actually, now your Greek class will start on that Wednesday.
Yeah, on that Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Are you fired up about that?
I am. I'm very excited. 21 new eager Greek students.
Yeah, that should be good.
Yeah, looking forward to having them be a part of the learning process.
Yes,
entering the oldest form of liberal arts education I can imagine.
Indeed. Yeah. So are you ready though? Because obviously teaching Greek is like 15% content.
40% counseling.
50% cheerleading, and the other, what's that leave? Like 35% counseling.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think we're ready.
Yeah,
I think we're good to go.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that just because of the different ways that people's minds are wired, that you every year you get students who are like, I'm a good student, but they're a little bit more like math, science, engineer-brained kind of thing, and the languages are just rough for them. Their brain doesn't click as well with languages. And then you get other students who are not necessarily maybe the strongest student in other courses, but like languages just kind of click in their brain.
It's wild.
It is.
It's the great equalizer.
Well, but it's also, as we've said at other points, it's in one sense, it's the manual labor of seminary education, essentially, is the languages. Yeah. It's the manual labor. It's you got to put the work in. It's not glamorous typically. It's,
Oh, yeah. Got to get the paper cuts from the flashcards.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So in any case, if you would like to connect with the show, there are multiple ways you can do this. We have made it as easy as possible on you. We are on Twitter at V&S We have an email address. I assume you're still checking that.
Yeah, it comes to my phone,
okay.
so I do see it. Most of the time, it's advertisers just like, "Hey, I love your podcast. We would love to advertise this. We think you would fit in our," and then in like bold letters, "religion and spirituality," or something like that. So those are the emails that really come in the most.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate your selectivity in filtering those. But that email address is variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Various and Sundry Podcast, on YouTube, Various and Sundry Podcast. And it's time for some real talk, John, because we've not had anyone leave us a review on the podcast app on the Apple platform since June.
It's been a minute.
It has. It's been a hot minute, as the kids say these days.
A couple of months, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm not quite to the point where I'm going to beg, but I'm just throwing that fact out there and waiting for someone's conscience to be provoked to go and fix that. So,
yeah, somebody out there is just
the Spirit is working on someone right now.
They're drowning in guilt over the fact that they haven't done it yet. They should have done it years ago,
yes.
and now is the time.
It is.
Now is the time.
Yes, indeed. So, well, let's talk a little bit about world of sports here, John. The Olympics are done.
Olympics are over.
Football hasn't started. Well, real football.
Yeah, you're right. No, football that counts.
Practice football is started. So, really about the only thing that's going on in any significant way, I'm not counting European professional soccer. Sorry to our soccer contingent out there, But in any case, the only thing going on is baseball.
Yeah, baseball's happening.
But that's not something you're eager to talk about today.
Well, no, I'm willing to take my lumps. The Mets, I think, are 1-9 in the month of, or 1-10 now in the month of August against teams not named the Nationals. So that's not good.
What's the problem?
Well,
Pitching, hitting, all the above.
A combination. Part of it is scheduling. So we're running into. So we had 3 games against the Dodgers, one of the favorites to win the World Series. Now we have 3 or 4 games against the Giants, another team favored to win the World Series, and then we have 3 more games against the Dodgers, and then another 3 or 4 games against the Giants. Yeah. So it's a tough 2-week stretch.
Yep.
So that's part of it. The other part of it is we're not healthy. We have I think 4 or 5 starting pitchers on the IL.
Okay.
The bats aren't waking up like everybody wants them to. So a cacophony of awfulness is really what it is.
Gotcha. What about NBA Summer League? Do you watch any of this? I mean, you got your boy Obi Toppin out there playing for the Knicks Summer League team. I think Quickly's playing too.
Yeah, I've
seen any of this.
I haven't watched, no, but I see the Knicks Twitter and they're hyping Obi Toppin's success.
It's Summer League.
I know. The biggest Kevin Knox was amazing in Summer League. He was considered the steal of the draft in Summer League, and now he doesn't hardly play. Yeah,
it does seem like I feel like this is more a function of ESPN and NBA TV needing programming content. That it seems like the last couple of years now
they've been
suddenly
hyping
gone
it. Yeah.
all in on ESPN has been almost nonstop NBA Summer League games. So that's one of those things where you're like, okay, I think we're just more aware of it because TV networks have decided, hey, this is cheap content right here. And
it reaches a younger demographic than, say, baseball does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. And then what about NFL preseason here, John? Your beloved Jets made their preseason debut, which meant that your boy Zach Wilson was out there.
Yeah, my favorite Mormon beat the Giants. Which anytime we beat the Giants, it's a good day.
Yeah.
Whether it's preseason or not. So he looked like a rookie, but a serviceable rookie. So I think looked. I think he was something like 6 for 9 for 75 yards or something like that. It's like that's decent.
Yeah, this was interesting though. I saw someone point out a little bit of a disparity between how his debut was covered and Trevor Lawrence's debut was covered. That basically they had very comparable stats, almost identical. And Trevor Lawrence was actually sacked on his first time he dropped back to pass. I think he might have even had a fumble in there. Didn't turn it over, but recover it, But comparable in terms of numbers. And I saw 2 tweets from the same feed. I think it's like Pro Football Focus or something like that. And it kind of the way it spun the performance. Zach Wilson kind of struggles. Trevor Lawrence, after the first play plays well or something like that. And you look at the numbers, it's like, but they're basically
the same.
Just funny to see the narrative come out.
Oh yeah,
Trevor Lawrence is this golden child, and Zach Wilson puts up the same numbers, and it's a little different story. But
SEC bias, Matt.
Yeah,
that's really what this is.
Did you see
or ACC bias? I should say.
Did you see Justin Fields' debut?
I read some articles that said he had a really good game.
He did. I'm telling you, if the Bears don't mess him up, I think
which there's a good chance there.
Yes, indeed.
Of course, the 3 teams we're talking about here, the Jets, the Bears, and the Jaguars, are notorious for killing quarterbacks, right?
Yeah. And it was Urban Meyer's debut as the coach of the Jaguars.
That's a hard word to pronounce.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm guessing you've seen some of the buzz in air quotes here of Tim Tebow trying to play tight end and block, and he's not going to make the team, is he?
No. It feels like something to take the spotlight off of Trevor Lawrence a little bit, to take the heat off. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to make the team in any case. And then Ohio State kicks off in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And they haven't named their starter. This is a sort of kind of classic coach move. He came out yesterday and basically said, C.J. Stroud has separated himself from the other two competing.
Okay, so which one is that? Is that the guy who graduated early and is now at Ohio State?
No, that's Quinn Ewers.
Okay.
He had his first practice yesterday.
Okay.
So
okay.
he's not in the mix for playing anytime soon.
That's right. Like 4 or 5 weeks in, he could be.
I think that's optimistic. I think people radically underestimate the challenges of learning an offense and being.
Will he go the way of Tua Tagovailoa and come into the national championship game and will the team to a comeback victory?
No. I think he might get a few minutes in garbage time this year because they changed the redshirt rule where you can play up to 4 games and still get a redshirt that year. So they're going to find a way to get him in somewhere.
Oh yeah,
but I'm getting excited.
Who are they playing opening weekend?
Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
On the road. That's a decent game. I mean, Minnesota's
that's a D1 school. That's a big school.
It's a conference game too.
Yeah,
it's on the road. Freshman quarterback, redshirt freshman who has never thrown a collegiate pass in a game.
Okay,
but it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. And then they open on Thursday night. Then that following Saturday they play home against Oregon.
Okay.
That's a big game.
Yeah. No, that's a better start to the schedule than I was anticipating.
Yeah. They do play. They have Tulsa on the schedule. So
boy. Are the Akron Zips on the schedule at all? Not this year?
They might be. No. I know Akron plays somebody from the Big Ten I was looking at the other day. In any case. But I am excited to see some college football, to see stadiums, see the band. Like that's part of what makes college football great is the atmosphere. I think even though you're an NFL guy, you got to acknowledge that the atmosphere at college football games.
Oh yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Is just unique compared to NFL games. NFL games just feel different. So looking forward to that, and and really, I mean, there's just no easy way to make
a
next
transition
here. So we're just going to do it in a clunky fashion. We don't intend on spending a ton of time on this because we're just not really sure what to say. But both you and I have just been saddened, grieved, frustrated, just stunned by the developments in Afghanistan, even in the last week since we recorded our last episode. So as we record now, the Taliban has essentially gained control of the capital. I guess there's some pockets of the country that are not under their control, but for all practical purposes, the Taliban is back in power.
Yeah.
And just seeing the scenes of I think it was yesterday where you saw scenes of these Afghans desperate to get out of the country running along a military transport airplane as it's leaving the airfield there in Kabul and so desperate to try to get on that plane that they're like running alongside of it and then some of them like grabbed the landing gear and hung on to it and then fell to their death when they couldn't hold on to it any longer. But in some ways, this is one of those stories where you're watching history unfold before your eyes, and it's just deeply, deeply troubling. And in particular, the effect it has on believers in Afghanistan.
Yeah, and I mean, beyond believers, the young men who may only be 20 years old, who have not lived in Afghanistan when there was Taliban control, and are going to be faced with a persecution of some kind, whether it's to join the Taliban or whether it's to be killed by the Taliban, or the women of the country, and I don't want to get graphic at all, but just what they're about to go through in the wake of Taliban occupation, and those are just devastating things. The Taliban does not have a good track record of treating those groups or people that are unlike them well.
Yeah. It's neither of us are political experts. Neither of us are foreign policy experts. But it sure seems like we could have done something better than what we did.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, I don't want to get into politics. I think there's plenty of blame to spread around lots of different people.
Oh yeah.
So, but it is so discouraging to think about what potential impact this has on the advancement of the gospel in that country, as well as the physical safety of missionaries, pastors, and those who are identified as believers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and you and I both have a bit of a direct connection to a situation that we can't talk about on air here. But and if I remember correctly, I think we've had a couple of downloads, at least a few downloads from Afghanistan.
Ooh, I'd have to check that. I believe so. I
I'm
think you're right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, man, if on the odd chance that you're still able to listen or find your way to listening to the pod, we want to be clear that we are praying for the country of Afghanistan. We're praying for believers in that country. We're praying for pastors, for missionaries, and as well as just for the country as a whole, that God would show mercy to people in all sorts of difficult situations in that country. And again, there's one situation in particular that we're aware of that is heavy on our hearts because of a personal connection. So, but I came across an article, and you probably have seen this too, John, an article on the 9 Marks website.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where either a pastor or a missionary from within the country reached out to someone who's a pastor in UAE,
yeah,
I think?
United Arab Emirates, yeah,
asking for prayer. And basically, they highlighted 3 ways that people can pray. And I think that these are going to seem obvious, but they're necessary.
Yeah, and need to be stated.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and we'll post a link in the show notes to this. First, pray for physical protection and provision. You've got people literally hiding for their lives because the Taliban has already identified them as either a pastor or a missionary and sent threatening letters of, we know who you are and what you do, and
we're coming
for you.
Yeah.
And praying for spiritual provision, that in the midst of that terror of living in that fear, understandable fear, that believers would experience God's peace and comfort and encouragement, and even just wisdom. There's just, how do you make decisions about hiding, running, fleeing, like staying, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's just difficult. And third, pray for the advancement of the gospel. That God does He does work in mysterious ways, and perhaps God would choose to advance the gospel even in the midst of such overwhelming fear and concern, that those who have never known Christ would come to Christ through this, despite the great risk of being a follower of Jesus in that country right now.
Yeah, I did check our downloads in the last 90 days. We've had a couple downloads from that country, from Afghanistan.
So again, if that's you and you're listening in country, please know we're praying for you. Ready to move on to our main topic?
Yeah. Another hard to transition.
Yeah. Again, we're not foreign policy experts, and
but we're human beings. We
are.
There's
and these are our brothers and sisters in the Lord, and as part of our spiritual family, we grieve with you, we grieve for you, and we will pray that God will do only what he can only do. So, speaking of the church, our main topic for today is we're going to talk about live streaming. Mm-hmm. Now with the pandemic in the phase that it's in. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk. This is like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall, trying to find words to describe this, right?
Yeah. Obviously, when the pandemic started and restrictions were in place that prevented churches from gathering physically, most churches probably at some level
I think most,
moved to some form of live streaming. Mm-hmm. And other churches had already been doing this.
Sure,
But it was sort of this or nothing for many churches. And so there was the mad dash, the scramble to figure out how to do this, get the tech in place, and
figure out Facebook Live, figure out YouTube
that's
Live.
Not going to work.
Yeah.
We're going to YouTube or whatever you ended up using. So again, props to all the pastors and church folk who had to figure that out.
And became a tech expert overnight. Yeah.
No doubt we're Googling endlessly, how do I do this? What do I need for this? But now here we are a year later, more than a year later.
More, yeah.
And I'd say probably most churches are back in some form of in-person gathering of some kind.
I think so.
I think most is fair, don't you? Most?
I think most. I think it varies by region of our country or other countries. Like I don't think churches in Australia, for instance, are back to meeting in person.
That's fair. I was thinking about our U.S. context. But by the way, did you see in New Zealand? This is a side note.
I saw the BBC article this morning.
Yeah.
If this is what you're referencing,
they had one confirmed case of COVID.
And the whole country goes.
And the whole country is shutting down, for 3 days or 7 days or something like that. Just interesting. Anyway, most churches here in the U.S. Back to meeting in person, and really that's the context of what we're going to talk about today. We're really not talking about context where live streaming is really your only option at this point.
Which we would get behind, certainly,
Right.
if you're on lockdown or there's something going on and all you can do is live stream. We would certainly be behind that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that something is better than nothing. But in our American context, it's interesting. Do you continue now? If your church is back in meeting in person, and do you continue to live stream? And part of what prompted this topic was, we've been thinking about this. Our own church has kind of thought through this and wrestled through this. But I think part of what brought it to prominence was Colin Hansen wrote an opinion piece in the New York Times, which is an interesting place to have that.
Yes. It's and Colin Hansen, of course, Gospel Coalition editor. Does he edit the blog? That. I mean, it feels like he writes 4 or 5 articles a week on that.
He has some position of oversight within the Gospel Coalition universe.
And so, but to see his name pop up on New York Times was wild.
Yeah,
just a little crazy.
Yeah. So he wrote an article entitled "What We Lose When We Live Stream Church." So, what were some of the things that were kind of big takeaways from this for you as you read through this?
I mean, I found myself in violent agreement with him on a lot of things, right? He says Christians need to hear babies cry. They need to see the reddened eyes of friends across the aisle. This going to church on Sunday is about hearing God's word preached. Don't get me wrong, and worshiping that Creator. But that's not the only thing it's about. It's also about seeing friends, catching up, engaging, asking about life, seeing one another, knowing one another's struggles. And that's a bit harder to do in a virtual context.
I'm willing to say it's impossible.
Okay.
Or just something short of impossible. And I think part of the reason we wanted to talk about this is that that Colin's article resonated with a lot of our own thoughts on live streaming. So I think I will say, if you want to, I think there's a place for it in certain circumstances, like a global pandemic,
or
where you are prevented from meeting in person.
Sure, yeah, I could even see it being useful to send a private link, so not a public link, but a private link of a live stream to shut-ins in your church, or even as we continue to stumble down the road that is COVID-19. For those that are really compromised in their immune system, and it's dangerous for them to go out.
Yeah.
For those people, I think this could be a solution to being able to do some gathering together.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think beyond that, though, and this is a point that Hansen makes in the article, is that when this started, you had some folks who were like, "This is the next revolution. This is the next wave of church.
Yeah.
That this is going to be the end all and be all of that." And that's obviously, I think, a little much. And Hansen points out, I think, some of the significant problems that come with only experiencing church in a live stream context. In fact, he more or less kind of says that's not really church. Like it's just not church. Church is more than just watching someone preach God's word, or even listening to the music and singing along at home. That's not quite the same as actual embodied presence with other believers.
Yeah, and rubbing shoulders. Catching up with somebody in the lobby after church, or those things are incredibly important to know names, to know faces, to be interconnected is a big part of going to a local body, going to a local congregation on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. One of the points that Hansen makes is that live streaming, he calls it, is more than a little too convenient.
Yes.
You don't even need to watch your own church's service. You can drop in on the church across town you've always wondered about, or even the church on the other side of the country or in a different country. Why visit any churches in person before you've at least watched several online? Why bother with any one church at all? Watch the sermon over here, the music over there. Change it up the next week, or skip a week or two. No one will notice the blip in the analytics.
Yeah, and I think those are excellent points. I think the other part that I think I certainly felt during the pandemic is, boy, this is wonderfully convenient to lay in bed on Saturday or Sunday morning, make myself some coffee, plop myself on the couch with a cup of coffee and a muffin, unshowered, and taking a service. That was convenient.
Yeah,
there was a part of that was enjoyable. But I think recognizing that that was a temporary measure, and
recognizing how much harder it is to stay actively engaged in that, right? Because now it feels like it's just another version of watching Netflix or watching something. You know what I mean? Like when those worlds just kind of merge, like even when I watch a show or a movie or something like that, like I often am doing other things.
Sure.
I'm checking email or I'm working on some other things and then the show is on in the background. Those habits easily bleed over into I'm sitting on my living room couch and I'm like, this just feels like I'm watching TV right now.
Yeah.
Even if the content is great and even if, that's no criticism of the people putting it together in terms of doing the worship or the sermon. It's just the medium through which you're experiencing it undercuts the reality of it. And I think beyond that, it is it misunderstands the nature of the church. I mean, we are people who are convinced of the centrality of the preaching of God's word, that everything in some way should revolve around God's word in the worship service, whether it's the singing, whether it's the praying, whether it's the preaching, whatever we're doing has some sort of connection to the word. But there's just something about being not physically present that disengages you from what's going on. And I just know for me that was difficult. I remember numerous times coming away from live streaming a service and just feeling like, did I really connect with God at all in the midst of that?
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to being physically with other believers in a room, singing, worshiping, hearing God's word, conversing, all those kinds of things.
I had the thought reading this article, and he didn't bring this up, but it's hard not to think about Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death.
Sure.
When this comes up. And if you've never read Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death, wonderful. It was written in, was it 84?
Yeah.
I mean,
but prophetic in many ways.
Oh my goodness.
Small p prophetic.
Yes. Yes. That and the basic thesis is the medium is the message. So what you communicate through is the message you're trying to communicate. And to communicate in his thought on television was that this is entertainment. This is something to be consumed. This is something to be enjoyed.
Yeah. And this was before the internet.
Before the internet, yes.
And obviously smartphones.
Yes.
I mean, you can only imagine what he would
Yes.
think in this context.
But part of his prescription was we need to get back to the written word. And he doesn't mean the scriptures necessarily by
Right.
that, but I think we could certainly imply that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so I know I was very encouraged when our pastor announced that we were discontinuing the live streaming
Yeah.
as of the end of July, I think, right, is when we stopped.
I think so, yeah.
Now we're still recording services that are being posted online on YouTube, but I think there's a 1-day delay.
I think there's a 1 or 2 day delay. Yep.
And I think that's a good. I think there's a place for putting content online, and I think there can be some helpful aspects of that. But I'm glad to see we're taking away the live streaming piece of that. And I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. I think we probably have similar thoughts on this, but in some ways, this is just an extension of the kind of multi-site conversation, right? Where you had these big churches. I mean, you had Driscoll doing it. You had Piper doing it.
Yeah.
Where you had multiple campuses, but the preacher would preach physically in one location, but have it live streamed into these other sites. So you had people gathered watching on the screen a pastor preaching a text.
Yeah. Or in some churches, I remember when the multi-site was really big, it was on a week delay. So they didn't have to worry about the internet going out and stuff like that. They would just video it, burn a DVD, and send it to the church for the next week across, the other campus across town. They were just a week behind the main campus or whatever.
Yeah. Not a fan of that.
No. I'm more of a fan of a flesh and blood preacher who who recognizes you at the grocery store, who is able to know you by name, who at some level knows what's going on in your life. Somebody, if you have that person, that's a much better person than a guy on a screen. Yeah,
absolutely. That's one of the things I've always appreciated about Capitol Hill Baptist and Mark Dever's church. They could, if they did multiple services and decided to add on to their building, they could put a lot more people in that church. But they are committed to, this is the size of church we are. Now we will plant and they train and they disciple, but they will get when they get to a certain, when they max out, they raise up, they plant, and they're committed to that. And I think that's a great model for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And one of them is that it helps undercut the celebrity pastor curse that evangelicalism is under in some ways.
Yeah. Sometimes I think I'm okay with more than one service personally, but I do like the model of, my goodness, we got to raise up more churches out of our congregation. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think multi-service is a very different thing than establish a campus and pipe the
guy in
guy in through the internet. Yeah, that feels pretty different to me.
He is the brand, though, Matt. He is the brand.
Yeah. In any case, anything else on this live streaming subject?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
At some point, we have talked about coming back and talking about technology in general. I think that'd be a good topic for us to talk about. Just how should we as Christians think big picture about technology and the influence it has on us, the good, the bad, the ugly, etc.
Absolutely.
So we'll circle back to that at some point. But we are at episode 85, so we need an athlete. John, who do we got?
Well, can we break some news first?
Sure.
I just got a notification on my phone that there we go. Timothy Tebow has been cut by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Who could have seen that coming?
I know. We definitely didn't talk about it 20 minutes ago. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, if only I had said sources close to the Jaguars informed me
that
Tim Tebow's on the way out. So, who could have predicted that? Okay. Wait, you know what?
Is this 85 or 86?
What number was Tebow wearing for the Jaguars? Didn't you have a picture up just there?
I did. Oh, it's gone.
I think he was wearing 85.
Are we at 85?
We are on episode 85.
Are we?
Yes.
I suppose you're right.
I swear.
Hold on. Let me pull up.
You showed it to me just quickly while I was talking. I'm almost certain. I mean, if he's if he was number 85, I mean,
let's see.
We got a little kismet going here, a little radio magic happening in our midst.
What day did the Jaguars play? I'm looking up the box score.
They played Saturday, right?
Yeah, there it is. They lost to the Browns.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see.
They didn't look very good. I saw chunks of that game. I'm pretty sure he was wearing 85. You sort that out, and I'll start reading through our
oh my goodness.
athletes here.
He didn't have a cat. Oh,
yeah, I don't think he showed up on the stats. Okay, so while you're looking at that, I will go through our athletes here. For episode 85, Jack Youngblood was a defensive end, which is an interesting number for a defensive end. For the Rams from 71 to 84, a pretty dominant player back in the DAY. He was a guy who I remember him playing against the Steelers and in the Super Bowl. So you are now able to confirm.
He wore 85. Yeah. He wore 85.
Radio magic right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, my goodness.
Right here. So, I mean, I guess we should at least read through the rest of the athletes, right?
Yeah, yes. Sure.
Antonio Gates played tight end for the Chargers from 2003 to 2018.
There was a time when he was dominant.
Yeah,
he was
absolutely
unstoppable.
And then for our Ohio contingent, Chad Ochocinco. Chad Johnson, yeah, who I think legally changed his name
to
Ochocinco. Yeah.
And I think played in, last I heard, was playing in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, he's bounced around a little bit looking for a paycheck. And he's probably shown up on reality TV somewhere, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think him and Terrell Owens had a reality show together, which there might just be too much ego for one show. There.
Yeah. If there's two people less qualified to talk about reality, it's probably Chad Ochocinco.
Yes, absolutely.
And then so he was with the Bengals from 2001 to 2011, but bounced around after that. And then for Ohio State, Mike Nugent. Nuge.
Drafted by the Jets.
And partially ruined by them. Kicker from 2001 to 2004, All-American. and was the Lou Groza winner.
Yeah, he bounced around the league for a while.
Kickers do, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty rare. Like, Vinatieri was an exception. Like, he was with the Patriots for a long chunk.
Oh, yeah.
And then he was with the Colts, and then that was it kind of thing. I don't think he played for anybody else. Like,
No, I think he just retired like last year.
pretty
maybe.
rare for a kicker to only end up playing for one or two teams and have that long of a career. So, well, John, who are we going to go with? I mean, has God's providence dropped into our lap?
Tim Tebow.
Your least favorite Christian athlete
Oh,
in
my
Tim
goodness. Well, he was on campus here one time.
Tebow? And did you try to work your magic to get a personal meet and greet there?
No, I did not. That was when he was with the Mets, too.
I know.
Yeah. I remember reflecting. I was sitting with a bunch of RDs in the back of our gymnasium, that we were in, and I just remember looking up at him, and he had on like this kind of like he had on a hoodie, but it was clearly like a $200 hoodie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can see abs through the hoodie. Never seen abs through a hoodie.
Yeah.
It was wild.
And it was like he came in like February, right before he was supposed to report to the Mets, I think, for spring
He
training.
was already supposed to report, and he didn't. And I was a little salty about that.
Okay. Well, probably worked out better for the Mets anyway.
I mean, I think his car almost got towed here. Like, I think he got a rental and just
Parked
parked
wherever he wanted.
Yeah, and the police came back. Whose rental is this? And nearly towed it away before they realized it was.
That'd have been kind
it
of
was
funny.
Tim Tebow's car.
So who do you want to go with?
I'll defer to you.
Oh, I mean, you got to give me something here.
Antonio Gates was dominant
He was,
for a long time.
but I mean,
The moment.
the moment seems to like just beg, doesn't it?
I don't think so, but you do what you like. You know, I'm deferring. I'm deferring.
All right. Tim Tebow it is, folks.
Timothy.
I'm going in Timothy.
Timothy, did we pick him for 15 as well?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I just want to make sure.
No, you wouldn't have allowed that.
No double dippers on the.
No, you would not have allowed that. All right, John, one thing you liked.
My sister-in-law's in town this week, so Kara is here. So it was a joy to see her last night.
Okay.
She's a Duke University student, so graduate student.
Yeah. A Duke basketball fan? Does she care about sports?
Well, she won the Big Ten in cross country for Butler when she was there. So
Right. That doesn't mean she cares about
but
watching
all that to say, no, I don't think she cares about watching sports.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Yes, I met Kara.
That's right.
As part of the wedding process there,
yeah.
and she seems like a lovely young woman. So glad that you got to connect with her. And obviously freakishly smart, being at Duke in a graduate program in some sort of
Something with
biology.
fruit flies of some kind.
Yeah.
Doing fertility, I think. Fruit fly fertility or something along those lines.
Yeah. So for me, my one thing I liked is I've started rereading the Chronicles of Narnia.
Nice. Where are you at? In what order are you?
Well, I'm doing the publication order.
Ooh.
So I am in the fourth book that came out, The Silver Chair.
Okay.
That's where I'm at right now. So I'm not sure I've read those since being a kid. And so it's fun to see more of the biblical allusions come out in the context of that. And so and you can tell, I mean, it's not to me on the same level of story as obviously Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
Or even Harry Potter. I think, it feels like this is aimed at a lower level of kid than those. Those seem like kind of like early teen kind of target of audience there. And this feels like elementary school kids, but stretching them to some degree. Mm-hmm. But what's great is Lewis does a nice job of, lots of things are going to go past the kid as he's hearing it read or reading it. But the adult who's familiar with the Bible is going to catch things that the kid won't. So that was my one thing I liked. Well,
It's been a heck of an episode.
It's been a strange episode, a whole range of emotions and topics. So we will continue to encourage people to pray for Afghanistan, as we did early in the episode. And we talked about live streaming and why it's the sign of the end times. Or maybe not. Maybe a little bit too much there. But we talked about athletes, and God dropped into our lap providentially.
Oh, my goodness.
An athlete for episode 85. And talked about catching up with family, Chronicles of Narnia. And so I think, by definition, we've covered our various and sundry topics and are ready to call mission accomplished.
I think so, yeah.
All right. So all at this point that's left to say is, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.